Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. With an average of 39, how was Gameweek 12 for you? For me, I got 51, so it's not too bad. I could complain, but I'll be okay. The thing which I feel bad about the most is that in my heart, I've been telling myself to back Neto, and this is the second time he's delivered. And I feel silly. But I had been burnt by going against Haaland. And then when I go for Haaland, he says, nah, you should have gone with Neto. So what contributed to another low-scoring game week? Well, the first thing that's obvious is majority of us captained Haaland. And Haaland got 4 points. Manchester City were beaten. And if you watch that game, it's like he had a fight with his girlfriend in the morning or something. He was just off. He had chances to score. He could have scored. But he just wasn't there on the day. And that was very disappointing. Something else that didn't go quite according to plans at Bournemouth, Semenyo didn't play. And that means he did nothing. Welbeck and Thiago Silva showed up as expected. Sunderland were beaten. Now, Liverpool were hammered by Nottingham Forest, 3-0. And to be honest, it's quite hard. I'm trying to decide which game was more disappointing. Liverpool 3-0 or Manchester United losing to 10-men Everton for over 80 minutes. So Liverpool did nothing. So that means all the Liverpool assets, the Isaks, the Ikitikes, the Salahs, the McAllisters, the Zoboslais, the Van Dijks. I brought in Van Dijk for his James, and he conceded 3 big ones. Painful. Rodgers is back, but a few of us have him. And then Eze scores a hat-trick, but he's not a highly owned player. We all have Saka, Rice, And then, of course, if you have defensive assets for Tottenham, you're doing nothing. And I'm looking at you, Van der Venonas. And then, of course, Manchester United were beaten by 10-men Everton. And that means Mbumo, who got a look at who had brought in for Gakpo, did nothing. And your Bruno Fernandes, your Cunhas, who didn't play, your Seskos, who didn't play, did nothing, Then Garnacho, if you brought him on, didn't play. Caicedo didn't play. So the international break and also Champions League had its impact on the game week. And then, of course, if you still had like Reece James, he got subbed at halftime. Very frustrating, So, and then on top of that, Fulham, Forest, Crystal Palace, and Everton were the only teams that kept a clean sheet, which isn't exactly what many of us had planned or anticipated. And that let us down defensively as well. The highest scoring game of the game week could be found at the Emirates Stadium with Arsenal trouncing Richarlison's Tottenham 4-1. Now, this game, goodness, if you remember a little earlier, I was telling you guys that I didn't like the idea of Thomas Frank leaving for this bigger club. And this is one of the games which shows a little bit why. Although I didn't really see it this way, initially, but he played this game like a small team. He went there and he set up shop the wrong way. He set up like he had Brentford. But he has a better team. He's got better defenders, better players. But he went there like he was avoiding relegation and then got beaten still. Now, Arsenal, to their credit, did what was expected of them. Eze had a good hat-trick. Trossard played really well and he keeps playing well. I think he's one of the most underrated players in that team. So Trossard scored and then Eze had a hat-trick and Richarlison scored arguably the goal of the game. Timber, who I should have brought in to replace Van Dijk, had a great assist. Trossard had an assist. Merino had an assist for Trossard's goal, which was a really nice dink. And Rice also had an assist. João Palhinha had the assist for Richarlison. Now, of course, Eze had the hat-trick, so he got the 3 bonus points. Trossard got 2, which made sense, and Palhinha got 1. If you're a Saka owner like me, or you're an Arsenal defensive holder, that was another reason you did nothing. So, Arsenal did great. Trossard and Eze are emerging as potential assets to own. They have been differentials. Eze has had a good season. So, if you want a cheaper route into Arsenal, might be better to have Trossard and Eze. The most disappointing game, I'm going to give it to Liverpool because they were hammered by a transitioning Nottingham Forest. They made, well, to be fair to Liverpool, for the first 30 minutes, they looked like they were going to take over this game. And then once Nottingham Forest scored, it's like they just crumbled. They don't have the fighting mentality that we've seen of a champion or of a team of their stature. They just folded. Honestly, they looked like a relegation side. They just could not do anything. And by the time the third goal entered, they looked like they were well beaten and they deserved every goal that came through. And I guess it just shows the importance of playing for 90 minutes. Only really Szoboszlai played like he wanted to do something. And this experiment of him playing right back needs to end because there's only so much he can do as a right back. And honestly, it's beginning to look like selling Trent Alexander. Well, they didn't sell him, he left. But losing Trent had a greater impact than we could have imagined. Not only on that side of the pitch, but defensively on Salah. That combination that those two had, it seems like Bradley isn't the guy, or maybe he's not trusted, and Frimpong just can't seem to be available. And over the international break, you would hear Robertson talk about Jota, and maybe this impact has been deeper than we think, and it's really hard to judge. So I don't know what to say about that, but Slot can't carry on like this. That's for sure. On the other end, Forest looked like they've figured out their defense because they really defended for those first 30 minutes when they were under siege. Oh, Murillo, who scored the goal, Gibbs White scored the goal, Savona. Now Murillo and Savona looking good to my eyes. I'm like, do I want Savona? I'm like, oh, I don't have a reason not to want him. I'm beginning to believe in their defense once again. Murillo got the 3 bonus points, Nico Williams got its 2 bonus points, and Anderson got 1. And honestly, at this point, I'm beginning to believe in the capacity to defend. When it comes to second most disappointing game, it just has to be mentioned. Manchester United losing to a 10-man Everton. Like, Idris Gallagher got red carded for fighting his own teammate in the game. He landed a soft jab on Michael Keane and got sent off. From that point on, you'd think, okay, Everton are imploding. It's Manchester United's game to lose. You'd be very wrong. Very wrong you would be. Pickford went to have maybe the best game I've seen him have in a long time. Saved absolutely everything. Could have saved your marriage. No, but he was immense. Dewsbury Hall scored a really, really good goal. And Manchester United felt like even if they had won 80 minutes, they would not have scored. It was a good victory by Everton. It was in fact their first victory there in 12 years. So it was a monumental victory for them. And given the circumstances, a well-deserved victory, and they should celebrate it like they won the World Cup. But Manchester United should be very disappointed. I think this is a damning defeat on Amorim. 10 men and you can't figure it out? You can't figure out 10 men for 80 minutes? Come on. So for scoring the good goal, Dewsbury Hall got the 3 bonus points. Pickford got 2, deserved. Mikolenko and Michael Keane got 1. So it just goes to show that Everton's defense is Everton's identity. Like I had said a little earlier, there were 4 clean sheets only. So, defense is going to not be so great this time around. Having said that, Pickford did play amazingly. So when it comes to keepers, Pickford, 10 points. Areola for West Ham, 9 points. He saved a penalty. Verbruggen, 7 points. Sells, 7 points. Sanchez and Henderson, 6 points. When it comes to defense, Murillo, 17 points. Munoz, 14 points. Nico Williams, 13 points. Savona, 12 points. Lacroix, 11 points. Tosin Darabayo, 10 points. Anderson, 10 points. So you can see the high scoring defenders all up there. Eze with a hat-trick was the player of the week with 20 points. Rodgers, 15. Barnes, 15. Keenan Dewsbury Hall, 13. Trossard, 12. Minte, Enzo Fernandez, 11. And Bruno Guimaraes with his 2 assists, 10. When it comes to forwards, Callum Wilson, who scored 2 good goals for West Ham, had 12. Welbeck, 8. Mecha, 8. Unal, 6. Raul and Richarlison, 6. Let's go over some stats generated from the weekend. Liverpool have been down at halftime for 8 of their last 11 games and have lost all of them. Savona has taken 2 shots in the Premier League, has scored both. 100% record. Forest, back-to-back league wins at Anfield for the first time since 1963. Talk about a gap. Liverpool have lost 6 of their last 7 games in the Premier League. Out of his 99 goals, only 1 of them has been against Newcastle United, and this is Haaland. Diaz scored his first goal in 4 years for Manchester City, and the last time he scored was also against Newcastle. Newcastle have beaten Manchester City for only the second time in 20 years. Chelsea have won all of their 7, 12:30 Saturday kickoff games. Liverpool have got 18 points right now, and this is the fewest points after 12 games by defending champions. Well, not the fewest, it's the 4th lowest. Chelsea hold that position with 11 points after 12 games, followed by Leicester in that season when Ranieri was sacked, Blackburn 14, and then Chelsea 18. David Moyes picked up his first win as a visiting manager to Old Trafford in the Premier League on his 18th attempt. That's longevity. I previously stated how disappointed I was in Manchester United. It turns out that this is the first time in their history that a league game at Old Trafford has been lost by them after an opponent picking up a red card, winning 36 and drawing 10. So this is like an upset. Amorim just creating new records for Manchester United. With 0.07 and 0.1, Tottenham are responsible for 2 of the lowest XG totals in a Premier League game this season. 0.07 against Arsenal and 0.1 against Chelsea. Eze scored a hat-trick, and it is a 400th hat-trick in Premier League history. He's the 23rd player to score one for Arsenal. And Arsenal have the most different hat-trick scorers in the Premier League history. The most interesting thing about this hat-trick of Eze's is that it is the first hat-trick since 1978 in this fixture. You'd think with the Henrys and the Robin van Persies and the Hurricanes that at least one of them would have had a hat-trick in this fixture. But no, before Eze, it was Alan Sunderland who scored the hat-trick in December 1978. And before him was Ted Drake, who did it in 1934. Wow. And also Ted Dyson, who did it in 1961. Sorry. So Ted Drake, 1934, Terry Dyson, 1961, and Alan Sunderland, 1978. So a hat-trick is quite a rare feat in this fixture. Now, Aston Villa came back from behind to defeat Leeds 2-1, with Rodgers having both goals. Only Brighton, who have 10, have gained more points from losing positions than Aston Villa this season. Brighton have come back from, have gained 10 points from losing positions, and Aston Villa have gained 9 points from losing positions. This is a bit of a weird start to hear, so listen carefully. There have only been 2 occasions in the Premier League where a team starting the day in the relegation zone wins by 3 or more goals against the reigning champions, with Nottingham Forest being responsible for both of those. They defeated Leeds 4-1 in 1992. And this past game week, they defeated Liverpool 3-0. Harvey Barnes is the first Newcastle player to score twice in a Premier League game against Manchester City since Alan Shearer did it in 2003. And this is their 40th meeting since Alan Shearer scored those 2 goals. Alexander Isak is the first Liverpool player in Premier League history to end on the losing side in each of his first 4 starts for the club. Wow, the move is not off to a great start. Liverpool have lost back-to-back league games by a margin of 3+ goals for the first time since April 1965 under Bill Shankly. Chelsea are the second team in Premier League history to go 50 consecutive games without a player aged 30 or older in their starting 11, after Aston Villa did it between September 2012 and January 2014 for 59 games. There is something called the most transferred in player curse. So, from Gameweek 9, let me read it to you. Voltemade was brought in the most. He got 2 points. Bomo, Gameweek 10, was brought in the most. 2 points. Mateta brought in Game 11 the most. 2 points. Bomo brought in the most in Gameweek 12. 1 point. And then as we continue to explore why our teams did nothing, one thing that will make it easy to see is the most captain players of Gameweek 12. Haaland was captained by 6.2 million people. He was the most captain player this weekend. 2 points. Salah, 1.1 million people captained him. 2 points. João Pedro, captained by 890,000 people. 1 point. Mateta, 500,000 people. 1 point. Bomo, 350,000. 1 point. Ekitike, 250,000. 1 point. Gyokeres, 240,000. 0 points. Semenyo, 240,000. 0. Saka, 226,000. 4 points. Fernandez, 196,000, 2 points. And those are the most captained players. So there were no returns from the most selected captains. When it comes to DEFCON points, Murillo was the top earner this week with 19 total, followed by Williams, his teammate, 18 points. Ampadu from Leeds, 18 points. Andre Santos and Andre, 17 points. So those are the top defensive contribution earners this past game week. As you can imagine, as we move ahead, Thiago is the most brought in player, 300,000, followed by Eze, 270,000, followed by Munoz, 222,000, followed by Timber, 165,000, followed by Minte, 136,000. All the performers of the last game week. Interesting. Players moved: Gabriel for 87,000, Semenyo to 99,000, João Pedro to 24,000, Caicedo 118,000, Mateta 76,000. I swear, every time I see João Pedro on this list, I'm just loving it, because next week when he scores against Arsenal, he would be the most brought-in player back. So, like I had said this time, Eze is the highest performer of this game week. The highest points this week belong to We Hope Squad. They got 134 points. And of course, they had to have captained Eze, which they did. And they got a mighty 40 points. I got 51. The average was 36. So just by captaining Eze, he or she had more than the average of the week. So Sanchez was in goal, 6. Senesi, 3. Timber, 5. Milankovic, 8. Munoz, 14. Salah, 2. Eze, 40. Minte, 11. Cullen, 2. João Pedro, 1. Bowen, 4. And of course, they used their bench boost. I forgot to mention that. And their bench was impressive as well. Pickford, 10. Thiago, 4. Lacroix, 11. Dewsbury Hall, 13. So just on the bench, a mighty 38 points. Well done to you. That's a great haul. When it comes to our league, Kojo Danso, 2 thumbs up, had 78 points. Unfortunately, he had 2 Arsenal players, but unfortunately he chose the wrong one to be his captain. Rice was his captain, who gave him 12 points. Eze had 20. Grealish had 3. Haaland had 2. Welbeck had 8. Mateta had 1. Matty Cash had 2. Murillo had 17. Gay had 5. Cucurella had 6. And Raya had 2. And that's how they got 78 points. In second place, Nicola Spadia, Nicola LFC got 77 points. Stevie G, 71 points. DJ Notice, 67 points. And in number 5, we had a 3-way tie. Franklin Astiema, Aboki Jr., and Ami Chief all had 65 points. On the other end of the table, the lowest points in our group was 14. But the team, I don't know, it seems a bit unlucky. So, Raya, 2. Konate, 0. Maswaku, 0. Saliba, 2. Trufer, 0. Magin, 1. Bernardo Silva, 1. Mo Salah, 2. Awoni, 0. Haaland, 4 as captain. Krupi, 2. So you see, I don't want to say this is an inactive team, but it's not a great team. Second lowest points was 16 by Adiolang. Moronga Imanyara, 19. Number 4, Tommy Oladipo with 20. And in number 5, it's a 3-way tie with Moses Moshiri, Edwin Kandie, and Madman Bielsa, each getting 21 points. When it comes to most points lost on the bench, Fahmi Zulkifly has 21 points on the bench. And how did these 21 points come? Verbruggen, 7 points. Semenyo, 0. Dewsbury Hall, 13 points. And Baleba, 1. Patrick Kaiser also had 21 points on the bench. Minte had 11 and Pickford had 10 for 21. And it just goes to show you that there are too many ways to skin a cat. When it comes to team with the most goal scorers, Nicola LFC, so his team have 7 goals scored by players on his squad. Well done to you. When it comes to team with the best midfield, Aboki Jr., his midfield gave him 44 points. Team with the best defense, Teddy Mwalo's defense gave him 43 points. Well done to you. That's actually quite impressive. When it comes to most transfers made, Don Clinton made the most with 8, followed by Mr. Nyerere, 5, Marchisio, 5, Christy Cadovillis, 5, and Emmanuel Boya, 5. When it comes to best transfer outcomes, Mike Muturi used his wildcard, and he gained 27 points from what he would have had he not used it. When it comes to not so good outcomes, Mike Mbogwa and Nathan Riak made transfers that cost them 26 points. I hope they didn't remove Eze. When it comes to the team with the highest team value, 14 Bora, 14 Sopo, Ronchi Saka has a team value of 104.2. When it comes to team with the lowest team value, Murunga Imanyara is going for broke, and his team is now worth 97.6, and he's the one who had 19 points. So things are not looking good. When it comes to value added to his team, PG Ongeri has added a respectable 0.9 to his team value. Well done. When it comes to the opposite stat of that, Kimeu Mutinda, Mark Gyosh, and Dennis Alubiri have all lost 0.9 points. As a result of his of his performance this game week, Eze has now been picked up by 24 managers in our league. Do with that information what you will. If you're wondering why we did poorly, 128 of us captained Haaland. 11 of us captained Bumo. Another 11 of us captained Saka. Another 10 of us captained João Pedro. Another 8 captained Salah. Another 8 captained Mateta. Another 4 captained Bruno Fernandes. Another 2 captained Wood. Another 2 captained Palmer. Are they even trying? Another 1 captained Gyokeres, Ekitike, Bowen, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Gakpo, Van Dijk, Raul Jimenez, Watkins, Merino, Rice, and Gabriel. All captained by one manager. When it comes to our league table, we have a new number 1, Madagani Kihoro. Well done to you. 770 points. You are 26 points ahead of number 2, who is Jeffrey Jeremy, who has 744 points. Arnold Midunga is number 3 with 740 points. Ron Chisaka is number 4 with 736 points. Charles Cadavillis is 5th with 733 points. Leon Mortier is number 6 with 731 points. Used his wildcard, got good results. Alan Muchangi, 728 points, is in number 7. Fama Champez is number 8 with 726 points. Franklin Asiema is number 9 with 724. And rounding off the top 10 is Patrick Philippe, who has 721 points. Now, like I just said, number 1 has 770 points. If you were to get down to 670, that is number 49. So if you're between number 1 and number 49 in our table, you still have a chance. Just 100 points. That's a great game week or 2. You can do it. When it comes to the bottom of our table, Mark Zizo, who joined late, has 88 points. Number 195 is Don Clinton with 320 points. 194 is Mike Mbogwa's team, who has 456, tied with Murunga Manyara. Tatiana Mislenovic has 474 points, tied with 191. Eddie Olang, who has 474 points. Number 1 in the world is C. McQuaid, Teddy's 15. They got 76 points and they have a grand total of 881 points. They are 111 points ahead of our number 1. This week, the global number 1 had Raya in goal, Munoz. Okay, Raya got 2, Munoz 14, Ruben Diaz got 7, Van de Ven 0, O'Reilly 1, Bruno Guimaraes 10, Enzo Fernandez 11, Rice 6, Eze 20, Mateta 1, Haaland 4 as captain. And on the bench, they have Verbruggen, Lacroix, Semenyo, and Bowen. And that's the squad that they have. So if you're looking to steal, I would say somebody who I can see here that's uncommon is Enzo Fernandez and Bruno Guimaraes and Eze. I guess his whole midfield. So if you're looking to change, maybe bringing in Bruno Guimaraes or Enzo or Eze might do the thing that you need it to do. As we look forward to this game week, the most important thing to say is that there's Champions League happening, European fixtures this week. And therefore, like for example, Esteval played last night and he picked up a knock. So he may not play. So even if he scored and you're looking at him as somebody who's potentially going to be in your team, please wait and hear what his injury status is. And that applies to the other European players that you will be looking at. And by that I just mean players playing in Europe. Now, from just a simple view, for me, this game week, it's either I'm going to do one of two things. So the thing that's happening to me right now is that I have my triple captain left, I have my bench boost, I have my free hit, and I need to start using them because they expire in game week 19. And right now, I'm looking at this game week, and I only have two thoughts. Either I'm going to triple captain Haaland against Leeds, or I'm going to use my free hit because I don't like the fixtures. I'm looking at them, and I feel like they're clashing in a way that doesn't favor my squad. And by that, I mean, outside Manchester City playing Leeds, I'm not feeling good about Everton, Newcastle. I'm not feeling great about Chelsea, Arsenal. Who's feeling great about Liverpool players right now? I'm not feeling great about my Mbumo going against my Crystal Palace defense. And I'm not feeling great about my Sunderland players going against my Bournemouth players. So a free hit makes sense to me. Of course, a free hit is an individual choice, so it might not be making sense to you. But for me, I'm leaning towards a free hit. Because I'm seeing Thiago Silva. You got Thiago against Burnley, and I'm like, that's a potential for return over there. But I also don't want to remove any of my strikers, so maybe I use a free hit. So that's where I'm leaning towards. I don't know what your squad look like, and I'm wondering if any of you are going through this kind of dilemma as well. Thankfully, at least the game week starts on Saturday, so we have a good start and a good finish. Just Saturday, Sunday, clean. No Monday fixtures. And for me, that means I can do the podcast on Monday. So, kicking us off will be Brentford versus Burnley. Burnley have lost their last 3 matches and have won 2 out of the last 5. Brentford have lost 2 of their last 3 matches, but have won 3 out of their last 5. Something interesting to note about Brentford is that they have gained the most penalties this season, 6, and Thiago has scored many of those. Burnley have also conceded the most penalties, which is 3, which means that there's great potential for Thiago to score. Actually, I'm thinking now that my free hit thing is making sense, or I just bring in Thiago, either or. As it stands, Da Silva, Carvalho are injured for Brentford. Roberts, Bayer, and Amdouni are unavailable for Burnley. Now, if you're looking at Brentford players, honestly, Thiago should be your first one, then Ouattara, and then you can gamble. Maybe in this game you could gamble on defense and maybe have Kelleher or Collins. Or not, you could choose Schade. On the Burnley side, if you believe they'll do something, which they could, Fleming is a good call. Kyle Walker and Cullen are also good calls. Manchester City take on Leeds. Manchester City were just beaten by Leverkusen and beaten by Newcastle. So they will be looking to revenge. Before that, they had won, now with those 2 losses, they have lost 2 in a row and 2 of their last 5. They've won 3 in their last 5. Now, Leeds, on the other hand, have lost 4 of their last 5. And I do not believe that they will have enough to stop Manchester City. And honestly, this is my strongest candidate for a hat-trick from Mr. Erling Haaland. And I think I've just decided to triple captain him. I can't make up my mind. But he's a very strong candidate for triple captain in this fixture. And then you'll see me next week talking about my 6 points from Haaland. Their head-to-head favors Manchester City, as you can imagine. If you're going to choose a Manchester City player, honestly, I think at this point it's going to be Haaland, and then probably Doku, and one of the defenders. Or you could even go 3 defenders. I don't see Leeds scoring in this game. But of course, when you say that, that's when they score. And should you believe that, Mecha is a good call. Aronson is another call. And maybe I could see a set-piece defense, and you could say Rodon or Goodmanson. Only Kovacic and Rodri are confirmed right now as unavailable, while Stark and Bonau are unavailable for Leeds. Sunderland versus Bournemouth. Now, both teams were not great over the weekend. Sunderland losing to Fulham and Bournemouth drawing to West Ham. Now, I honestly thought that Sunderland would win that game and then lose the other 4. And now I don't think they're going to win. I honestly think, if you remember last podcast, I said they'll do well to get 3 points out of the next 5 games. That still holds. But now I'm even more skeptical. I think their good run is coming to an end. Their fixes are just becoming tough. Although this could be the game that gets the points which I thought they were going to get from Fulham, because Bournemouth are also on a slippery slope right now. And if you look at their last 5 games, Sunderland, 1 loss, 2 draws, and 2 wins. Bournemouth, 2 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win. So Sunderland are in better form, but that does not mean much. When it comes to availability of players, currently Hjelde, Mundler, Alessi, Diarra unavailable for Sunderland, while Semenyo is doubtful, along with Akimboni, Kluivert, and Dork. So, when it comes to choosing players from Sunderland, you have Isidore, who's been doing well. I think if you have Mokiele or Ballard, it just seems like one of them tends to get these DEFCON points. And then Saka, that'll be fine. Now, in the absence of Semenyo, if you believe in the DEFCON points, you have to get Senesi. And then you have Krupi and either Tavernier or Evanilson. But I would go Senesi, Krupi, Tavernier, because Evanilson hasn't been performing well of late. Everton and Newcastle. Both teams defeated Manchester-based sides this weekend, with Manchester City being beaten by Newcastle and Everton defeating Manchester United. Both victories were impressive. Now, having come off with impressive victories, Newcastle are playing away from home and they tend to be dreadful away from home. And Everton are good at home, and it's going to be an interesting game because I think this one will just be about who takes the chances. I mean, all football is about who takes their chances, but Everton are quite defensive and Newcastle don't score. So if Newcastle can score, that'll make this game interesting, but the odds are not. Just listen to their last 5 results. Everton won 1-0. They drew 0-0, which is actually what I think the result will be. Then they drew 1-1. Then Everton won 3-0 at home. And before that, Everton lost 4-1 at home. So for me, the odds are saying that Everton do better at home versus Newcastle. And I'm going to lean in that direction. So I'm going either an Everton win or draw. Now, should you believe this to be true, Everton tend to perform based on their defense. And should you believe in their defense, you have to be looking at Tarkowski and Pickford or Michael Keane. And then if you're going forward, you're looking at Grealish or Mr. Ndiaye. On the other end, Jacob Murphy, Barnes, and Voltemada. Barnes scored 2 goals, so I'll have to start with him. Voltemada, since he had his 4 goals, has disappeared. So I would say Barnes, and then maybe Bruno Guimaraes and Jacob Murphy. Those are the 3 I'd recommend from Newcastle. Tottenham versus Fulham. Tottenham got a nice victory over Sunderland, which is good because their season has been a bit meh. Now they're playing a team that was just hammered 4-1 by Arsenal over the weekend. So both teams need this victory for different reasons. Now, when I look at the head-to-head, when I look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Fulham have won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. And this puts them at an advantage. I think even if they are away from home, they're slightly better in form. Because like now, let's look at Tottenham's last 5 games. Tottenham have lost 3, drawn 1, won 1. The last 5 for Fulham, they've won 2, drawn 1, lost 2. So Fulham are in better shape. As always, it seems like Spurs never have a full squad. Romero is suspended. Davis is unavailable. Takai, Dragusin, Madison, Bissouma, Kulusevski, Solanke unavailable. All important players. Robinson and Munoz are unavailable for Fulham. Now, when it comes to the squad, I would say Jimenez, King, and Wilson are great going forward and great options. If you're looking for a defender, I would say Anderson because he is their best DEFCON point getter. I would recommend Semenyo if only he was classified as a defender. He's classified as a midfielder, so even if he plays left back, it's not worth it. On the Spurs side, Richarlison scored a really, really good goal against Arsenal. Him, Kudus, and Odegaard are my recommendations. However, they're playing in Europe this week, so wait and see who will be available. Crystal Palace take on Manchester United. Crystal Palace have been a great team so far this season. When I look at the head-to-head, Crystal Palace have won 1, 2, 3 of their last 5 encounters, drawn 1, and lost 1. And listen to the scoreline. Crystal Palace won 2-0, they drew 0-0. Crystal Palace won 4-0, they won 1-0 and lost 3-0. So it seems like whichever side you pick, the other side is not going to score. That's what their history is saying so far. Now, the last time they played each other, Mateta had 2 goals. Will he have 2 goals again? Who knows? They won 2-0. Mateta was subbed early. And the biggest concern for me right now with Mateta is that he keeps getting subbed a little early for Nketiah. And it's making me worry long term about his minutes because he's not going to play the 90. And it just makes me feel funny about it. Anyway, when it comes to injuries, Sesko, Maguire, and Cunha are unavailable and doubtful for this game week. Porja, Riyad, and Doucouré are unavailable for Palace, but that could change given the midweek fixture for Crystal Palace. They're in Europe. Now, Crystal Palace are in great form, having won 4 of the last 5 and drawing 1. Manchester United have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1 of their last 5. So, teams are in relatively good form. Now, Mateta, Sarr, and either Munoz or Gay are the first bets for me. For Manchester United, I would say Fernandes, Mbumo, and Ahmad. Those are the 3. Moving on, Aston Villa versus Wolves. This is a game. Now you see why I'm looking at the free hit. Because this is a good game. If you can pick the right Aston Villa player, who might be Rodgers. Now, I don't need to tell you anything about Wolves. You know they're in horrible form. Aston Villa are sneaky good and now are up to 4th on the table. So they are in great form. Now, Wolves won the last time these two sides met. However, before that, it's 2 victories for Aston Villa, a draw, and a win for Wolves. So it's split right in the middle. However, given their current form, one is at the bottom of the table, one is closer to the top. Aston Villa are favourites for this fixture. When it comes to injuries, Onana is unavailable, Mings is unavailable, Bentley, Doherty, and Gomez are unavailable for Wolves. Now, I don't want to advise you to get into this game for Wolves players, but should you feel like you want to, I would say Bueno, Strand Larsen, and the Korean guy Hwang. For Aston Villa, Marlon has been doing well. I don't know how he's coming on the bench, off the bench and just doing, but he is. Marlon, Rodgers, and maybe McGinn. Watkins is not having a great season so far. He might kick off, but he hasn't kicked off yet. So don't get into Watkins. Nottingham Forest versus Brighton. This is one of the reasons I want to use my free hit. Forest at home, they're looking good defensively, and this game is hard to call. Now, Brighton are also having a good season so far. When I look at the last 5 games, Forest have won 2, drawn 2, lost 1, while Brighton have won 2, drawn 1, lost 2. Now, how do you go forward? Let's see. Looking at the injuries, Zinchenko, Gunn, Wood, Bakwa, Luis, Aina are unavailable for Forest, while Webster, Milner, Mitoma, and March are unavailable for Brighton. Now, if you're choosing Brighton players, to me it's clear. Minte and Welbeck have to be there. And then maybe Verbruggen. They've been sneaky good in defense. Now, Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White, Murillo, and Elliot. And by Elliot, I mean Elliot Anderson. He has been sneaky good in getting those DEFCON points. Moving on, West Ham take on Liverpool. And in any other season, you'd be saying, oh, Liverpool are going to absolutely demolish West Ham. But as they are constituted and how they're looking and their current miserable run of form, it's not looking good. Now, of course, they have won their last 4 out of 5 fixtures against them, and it's not even close. It's like, okay, so they won the last one 2-1, then they won 5-0, then they won 5-1, then they won 5-1, and then they drew 2-2. So you see, they're heavily favored. But their current form, it's reminiscent of Manchester City last season. So, and West Ham are kind of a resurging side. And this means that they have the potential to disappoint. Because if you look at their last 3 games, they've got 2 victories and 1 draw. Of course, and 2 losses before that. But they are on the way up. Liverpool have 2 wins and 3 losses in their last 5. And all their losses are in the Premier League. So, just based on form and record, I'm going to give this game to be maybe even a draw. Maybe 2-2. I could see it 2-2 or maybe a win for West Ham. If if Espirito Santo has got them firing right, I can see them taking this one. Now, should you believe in West Ham? Callum Wilson is looking good right now. Him, Bowen, and maybe Diouf would be the great calls. And of course, on the Liverpool side, Szoboszlai is the only player who's fighting, so I'm gonna put him. I hope he's put in the midfield this game. Him, Salah, Ekitike, and Salah is just because. But if you don't have Salah, don't bring him in. Go Verts or no, don't even go Verts. Don't go Verts. Just really Ekitike, Szoboszlai. Yeah, that's it. And Salah if you have him, of course. But if you don't have him, don't bring him. When it comes to potentially injured unavailable players for this fixture, Mavropanos and Skulls are unavailable for West Ham. Bradley, Verts, Leone. Oh, Verts is unavailable. Lucky you. Leone, Frimpong, Bajetic, all unavailable. So probably Szoboszlai will play there unless they bring in a kid. Moving on. Chelsea versus Arsenal. If there's any team at this point that can beat Arsenal, it's going to be Chelsea. Chelsea tend to be the team that disappoint teams. Look at what they did to Barcelona just last night. 3-0 victory, and everybody thought it would be a high-scoring game. It kind of reminded me of the Club World Cup final where everybody was PSG, and then it turned out to be a walkover. Now, I'm not going to say this was a walkover or this is going to be a walkover, but if there's a team that can disappoint Arsenal, it will be Chelsea. Now, having said that, in their last 5 encounters, Arsenal have won 3 and drawn 2. So in the last 5 encounters, they have not lost to Chelsea. So there's no reason to believe that they will lose to Chelsea. They're still in better form, and they're on top of the table for a reason. Both teams have 4 wins and 1 draw in their last 5. So both teams are looking good going into this fixture. When it comes to unavailable players, Palmer, Esugo, Colwill, Lavia are unavailable for Chelsea. Gabriel, Jesus, Havertz, Odegaard, Gyokeres are unavailable for Arsenal. Now, Esteval got a knock, so I wouldn't recommend you to pick him. For Arsenal, they're yet to play. They're playing against Bayern Munich tonight. So wait and see who's available. But if everything goes well, I would recommend Rice, Trossard, and Mr. Eze. Those 3. I wouldn't really go into defense because I believe both teams have the potential to score in this one. And for Chelsea, I would say Enzo Fernandez, Neto, and João Pedro. But I've seen how many people removed him, and if you're one of them, don't worry. Maybe go Caicedo because he'll definitely be a factor in the midfield. I don't see this game ending 0-0, but if it was 0-0, it would be a very entertaining 0-0 because I think both teams would really be trying to score. Especially Chelsea. Chelsea are not afraid to try. And if Enzo gets it right, he will make the game open. When it comes to captain choices, when I look at this game, I see, okay, Brentford Burnley, definitely Igor Thiago is definitely worth a captain shout. Man City Leeds, Haaland for sure is a captain shout. Sunderland versus Bournemouth, not a captain over those 2. Everton Newcastle, not a captain over those 2. Spurs Fulham, not a captain over those 2. Crystal Palace versus Man United, maybe not a captain over those 2, but Mateta has been good in this fixture, so he could be the 3rd captain. Aston Villa Wolves, I take it back. Morgan Rodgers can be the 3rd captain, making Mateta the 4th. Forest Brighton, I'm not seeing anyone who's better than those 4. West Ham Liverpool, I'm not seeing anybody better than those 4. And Chelsea Arsenal, I'm not seeing a captain better than any of those 4. Of course, there will always be a random defender who will have a hat-trick or something like that. So, but when it's just like, when I look at it simply, those 4 are my strongest captain choice recommendations. When it comes to the FPL FDR, Arsenal have Chelsea, Brentford, Aston Villa, Wolves, and Everton. Outside the Chelsea game, I believe all the other games are winnable. So after Chelsea, maybe it might be time to get even more defenders. Aston Villa have Wolves, Brighton, Arsenal, West Ham, and Man United. This might not be a bad time to bring in Morgan Rodgers. Okay, yeah. Aston Villa outside Arsenal, their fixtures are not looking bad. Bournemouth have Sunderland, Everton, Chelsea, Man United, and Burnley. Now, outside Chelsea, I believe they can win the rest, should they get their things together. But given the form that they are in, I would say take it on a game by game basis. Let's see how they perform against Sunderland first before projecting them forward. Brentford have Burnley, Arsenal, Tottenham, Leeds, and Wolves. Wow, we really should get Igor Thiago in here because if anything good happens, it's going to be coming from him. So Igor Thiago is looking like a must right now. Brighton have Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, West Ham, Liverpool, and Sunderland. Honestly, Forest and Villa look like their toughest games. So Welbeck and Minte might be worth looking into. Burnley have Brentford, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Fulham, and Bournemouth. Don't get into Burnley. They're not going to survive. Chelsea have Crystal Palace. Chelsea have Arsenal, Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, and Newcastle. These are a bunch of tricky fixtures. Arsenal, definitely tricky. Bournemouth is tricky. Everton, you never know how it can go, and Newcastle will be tough because Newcastle will be at home. So I would say their defense has had a good run, and I can see a clean sheet in the Leeds game. But outside that, I think it's going to be difficult on their defense. Crystal Palace have Manchester United, Burnley, Fulham, Man City, and Leeds. And honestly, outside Manchester City, I think all of the games are winnable. You see why it's tough to get off Mateta when you look at these fixtures and you're like, ooh, the points, I can smell the points. Everton have Newcastle, Bournemouth, Forest, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Wow. These are actually not easy fixtures. I wouldn't recommend you going into their defense, even if you know their defense will be what will help them survive this. Maybe if you're going strictly for DEFCON and you have no other choices, but I wouldn't be getting into them. Fulham have Tottenham, Manchester City, Crystal Palace, Burnley, and Forest. Now, Tottenham is a winnable game. I don't see them beating Man City or Crystal Palace, but I can see them beating Burnley, Forest, and West Ham, depending on how Forest continue to evolve. So I would say hold on to making Fulham-based decisions until after the Crystal Palace game. Leeds have, well, doesn't matter who Leeds have, but they have City, Chelsea, Liverpool. Difficult games. Brentford and Crystal Palace. So if you at all considering Leeds players, get into them after Liverpool. Liverpool have West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, and Tottenham. This is why I got Van Dijk. I'm not remembering why I got Van Dijk. I looked at these fixtures and I saw clean sheets. And then they got hammered 3-0. So take that as a lesson. This FDR doesn't mean what you think it means. In theory, these are good games and enough good games here for them to build momentum and put on some sort of charge for Champions League. But I don't know, this is a good set of fixtures for them to sort themselves out. Man City have Leeds, Fulham, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, West Ham. I can also see why I brought in a Man City defender. These are good fixtures for them. Haaland triple captain is really looking good for me. I mean, it's really what my heart is telling me. Interesting. Anyway, Man United have Crystal Palace, West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa. All winnable games. Maybe Crystal Palace is their toughest game, but these are all winnable games, which is why I have them boom all. Anyway, also, as you're making your fixtures, your plans for the game week, also remember that Africa Cup is coming up and you're going to get 5 transfers. So if you've been saving these free transfers, use them because you're not going to get 10. It'll just be if you're 5, you'll still have 5. So don't waste the transfers like that. Newcastle have Everton, Tottenham, Burnley, Sunderland, and Chelsea. Now they have Tottenham, Burnley, and Chelsea at home. And out of those 3, they can win. Actually, honestly, this wouldn't be a bad time to get into Newcastle defense. Maybe not going forward if you can't figure out who you want from their forwards, but I can see them getting defensive returns in these fixtures, in at least 3 of them. Nottingham Forest have Brighton, Wolves, Everton, Tottenham, and Fulham. Forest seem to be turning around the corner, and I think they will be fine. I don't know how to predict them going forward, but I think they have refound or are in the process of refining their defensive identity. So, yeah, maybe get one defense, maybe get a Savona. Yeah, that's it. That's what I would say. Spurs have Fulham, Newcastle, Brentford, Nottingham Forest, and Liverpool. Spurs, the problem with Spurs is that they're consistently inconsistent. They could win all 5, they could lose all 5, they could win 3 out of the 5, but which 3? Only God knows. So they continue to be unpredictable. Sunderland have Bournemouth, Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton. Oh my goodness. These are 5 difficult fixtures, honestly. If they can come out with 3 points, I still maintain that they would have done a great job. So I would say wait for them to reach Leeds before jumping into them, if you're not already in them. But also if you're in them, try to get out of them. West Ham have Liverpool, Man United, Brighton, Aston Villa, and Man City. Difficult fixtures, but they have potential. If they can get something against Liverpool, I can see them getting something against Manchester United. And then if they can get something against Manchester United, I can see them getting something against Brighton. You know, it's a momentum thing. But that's only with the 3 fixtures. After that, I can't see them beating Aston Villa and I can't see them beating Man City. But I can see them beating Liverpool or gaining something Liverpool, which buoys them to get something against Man United, which buoys them further to get something against Brighton. Now, moving on, you have Wolves, who have Aston Villa, Forest, Man United, Arsenal, and Brentford. Rob Edwards has a big job on his hands, and if he just needs to start getting something. That's all. I wouldn't recommend you getting into their players, regardless of who they're playing, until you see something substantial. And with that, remember, kickoff is on Saturday. Remember, there's Champions League. So take your time. And with that, enjoy the rest of your week. See you on the pitch. Bye.